Can you guys tell me what you or your parents remember from the war in your time?
Well, there are a few things that I was quite young at the time. I was only in early elementary school when the war ended in 1944. But some of the things that I do remember from the war, things that they had to deal with was there was a shortage of certain things, and they had, and I don't know where they got them, but you had coupon books that were worth so much money, and you went to the store to get milk or butter or eggs or something like that, that you used a certain amount of these coupons to buy these things. I also remember that it was in the early years where butter was really unavailable. They had margarine came into existence, and the margarine came out packaged in a plastic bag about so big, and it had a little button in the middle of it that had a coloring.
Orange button. And
they couldn't sell it with the coloring already in it. You had to break that button, then you mushed around the plastic bag and spread the color around so that it took on the color of butter. But I do remember that as being one of the offshoots of war. I also remember as a kid there was railroad tracks in the neighborhood, and they were frequently, the trains would stop there, and these big flatbeds with military vehicles, tanks and jeeps and things like that strapped to them, going from where, I guess, where they made them to where they were being shipped overseas or something. But I remember that as a kid, but I don't remember anything of the war itself. I do remember the night that they announced on the radio that the war had ended.
the atomic bomb.
I guess it was that was, yeah, that was, it was probably that, although I don't remember if that was the issue. But you know, there was a lot of noise and people running around the streets that the war had ended and all that. But as far as the war itself, other than having studied it as a student, I don't really remember actually hearing my parents talking about the war. Just these little side issues that you'd remember as a kid, because I used to have to get to mush the margarine around. That was one of the jobs I got. But I don't know if you remember anything.
Well, I remember the rationing things.
Yeah,
You could only have so much of each thing, and each family got a book, and you had to use those coupons. And you could buy other things, but once you were out of coupons, those things for which the coupons were, and you couldn't get any more of that product. And you just had a general feeling of conservation of food, and that we never really got hit here, but we used to have drills, you know, because they were talking about nuclear bombs, and the schools would get the children all down the basement, and we'd have, instead of a fire drill, we'd have an air raid attack practice. And that was one that was the atomic bomb that really ended the war when it was dropped for the first time, because no one could imagine the devastation, and that just ended everything right there, and so many people died, and everybody started coming home. We never had to have that happen again.
I do know that my mother had 5 brothers, and her youngest brother, who was actually my godfather, he was only about 12 or 13 years older when I was young, but he was in the Second World War, and he was a small guy, and his job was as he was a tail gunner in a bomber that flew missions over Germany, and he would have to crawl through the tunnel in the back of this B-29 or whatever plane he was in, and he would sit back there and by himself back there. And he on one of the missions, I know, he told me this story. His plane got shot up, and the back end of his plane, and he got wounded. He got shot up when he was only a young teenager at the time, 17, 18 years old. But I know for a fact that since that happened to him, he never, ever got in an airplane again. Now, he just died maybe 5 or 6 years ago. But he had never, in all those years, he had never flown an airplane because he was so scared to get in an airplane because of what happened to him in the war. And that was I heard that, he told me that when I was younger. You don't appreciate it because, even though I was in the service, I was never in a combat situation. That was a Second World War incident, and he caught the tail of it. And Ellen's first husband, who died some years ago, 25 years ago, was not from the war, but was a tanker. He was in a tank, and if you see the size of him before he died, you would never believe he could fit into a tank. He was a big guy, but he was a teenager. He was just a tall, skinny kid, but he was in the Battle of the Bulge, wasn't he?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but as a tanker. And but you find that the people that have been in the war, they don't talk about it that much. Even the guys that we know around here.
They never talk about
They
it.
never talk about it. I had a brother-in-law who flew jet pilot in Vietnam, and he never talked about it much.
And he got shot down.
And his plane got shot up a few times, but there's something about, I don't know, combat that, what it does to you, I guess, and that they just don't spend a lot of time talking about it. At least not the people I've met.
And he had a wife and 5 children.
Yeah. But it's the war it can't be a fun thing to do. It's got to be a dirty business. And why people start them, and we've been through enough in your lifetime to certainly have you make a decision. We don't want any more of that. We certainly don't. But you guys are of the age that you're going to be the ones that end up with boots on the ground, and whoever starts them probably doesn't ever, on occasion.